Good morning. There's something about being sold out for God that is contagious. It's powerful. It's very unique in today's world. You know, Pharaoh kept saying to the people of Israel, you can't go, you can't go, you can't go. And God kept sending plague after plague after plague. And he kept softening it just a little bit. And this is a little bit of the progression. At first he said, you're not going. And then the plagues kept coming. He says, well, you can worship if you stay here. I'll let you worship if you just stay here. And Moses said, no, we've got to go 3 days journey. Well, more plagues. He says, you can go, but you've got to leave your children behind. They said, no way. And he says, okay, after more plagues and finally giving up, he says, okay, you can go, but leave the cattle behind. And then they make this statement here in verse 26. Our livestock also shall go with us. Not a hoof shall be left behind. Not a hoof left behind. You know, how committed are we to really going the full distance for God? I remember when God called me into the ministry. I just got accepted to law school, and I was at Georgia State, and I was headed to law school, and I was going to please my dad, and that's what he wanted me to do. And we had a restaurant business, and he wanted me to help him with opening up perhaps a chain of those, and my brother as well. But one Sunday night at church, when an invitation was given, it happened to be First Baptist of Atlanta with Dr. Stanley, God moved in my heart, and he said, no, you're gonna go with me. You're going to change your life and be a pastor. I'm calling you into the ministry. Well, I knew what that meant. Boy, I knew what that meant. I came home that night from church. I told my mother and dad. My dad's words were, it's never going to happen. You can forget it. It's never going to happen. Well, time went on. I said, no, I've got to go. I've got to go. And I was doing everything I could to be the kind of son that I needed to be. And he said, I tell you what, if you really mean it, then I want you to work. I've sent you through private school. I've given my life for your education, all these things. He said, you work for me for a year. Well, it turned out to be 2 years because he had 2 heart attacks during that period. But it was almost like Pharaoh. He said, you can go. And guess what happened? During that 3.5 years in Fort Worth, Texas, and I came back and I did a few preaching things and what have you at some churches, and my dad became my greatest fan. He would embarrass me by handing out cassette tapes all over the place. And I thought, Dad, that's enough. You know, we don't need to do this. But one that was so against me going into the ministry, seeing my commitment to it, that this was real, changed his entire life. Now, let me ask you something. Where is it that you're leaving a hoof behind? That you're not sold out? That you're not really in hook, line, and sinker? I'm going to go so far, but if it requires this, then I'll have to sort that out. I'll have to recheck myself and all those things. No, that's not the way it works with God. You see, worship and obedience go together like peas and carrots. And we worship him, we obey him. We praise him and think of everything that God's done, and we give him the glory that's due him. Well, obedience is what's doing. And so the times I haven't obeyed him, I have very much regretted it. But you know, it's so sweet when you give up and give in and do it God's way. He will bless it. Don't leave a hoof behind. You go all the way with God. If this is spoken to you, you share it with somebody else. God bless you.